Welcome to Sacred Space. I'm your host, Sonia Sunger. And today, our guest is the incredible Courtney Thomas. She's someone that I actually met through friends that I have known as an acquaintance, and I've gotten to know her a little bit better through different interviews on intuition and really listening to our inner self. Courtney is an intuitive mindfulness coach. She hosts retreats and workshops and works in group settings and also one on one settings. And she really has a great way of grounding us and also reminding us how to listen to that voice within. So, we're going to take a dive into intuition, into her intuitive story, and some of the messages that she wants people to hear today. Let's begin. Courtney,
Beautiful.
I'm
Hi.
so happy to have you here today.
I'm so happy to be here. Hi, girl.
This is, I feel like, destiny. Whoa, big word. She's, but I we've only been in the same room maybe a handful of times,
Yeah.
and I've always felt this strong, deep connection to you. I think we're both pretty old souls. I think we can say that much for sure.
Definitely.
Your journey into the space of what you're doing right now is incredible because you worked in the corporate world, and through that, you were able to hear and follow your intuitive voice. Tell me, when did you first realize that you were intuitive?
I believe actually I was talking to somebody about this recently where I remember growing up, there were so many different experiences that I felt like I could hear things and see things beyond just the human eye. I remember seeing like little worlds in my living room and being able to drift into places and spaces where I could connect with something so much bigger than myself. And it's really interesting because I was just, again, like I said, sharing this with somebody where between the age of 7 and 9, I remember always going across the street from my childhood home and being in this tree, like climbing in a tree. And I would spend hours in this tree. I remember again talking to different, what now I would know as like my guides. I would journal in this tree. I would just, and anyone who knew me from childhood knew that like there was such a strong connection to this tree. And I remember coming home from a holiday vacation with my family and pulling into the house and seeing that the neighbor had cut the tree down. And it was interesting. I actually had like tucked this memory away for so long. And having this conversation with this friend, she was like, that is so traumatic. And I remember in that moment consciously feeling like, there goes my connection.
Mm.
And of course, at that age, I didn't have the language to it, but I can actually remember the trauma of it. And I remember so many people in my world, because it's all the language that they knew too, was to kind of just say, like, it's fine, like, get over it. Um, but it was a really big turning point for me because it actually disconnected me from essentially now what I would say is like my connection to source. And then moving into like, from the age of 9, 10 years old into your teenage years, I really shaped and shifted myself to the external world for external validation. And then I remember I was 17 years old. I was in a car with an ex boyfriend and we were driving. And at the time, there was this big voice that came over me. It was my clairaudience, which is, we can get into a little bit about different types of intuition, but it was this distinct voice that told me to put my seatbelt on. And I remember in that moment really recognizing the voice, like being like, oh, this is a voice I listen to. And I couldn't explain it, but I fought with the person next to me to put my seatbelt on because I just knew in my bones, it was like something was taking over my body. And 10 seconds later, we got into this really serious car accident. We flew over a 10-foot cliff. The car almost flew into a home. It lit on fire, and I was in critical care for 2 weeks. And I know that there was something deep inside, like it was my connection to my source, my guides that was telling me how to save my life. And from that moment on, I really did start to remember a lot about my intuition. That was when I got into yoga, meditation. At the time, from a surface level, I was just telling myself I was healing my spinal injury. Like I had compression fractures all down my spine. So that's why I got into yoga. But I was actually exploring something so much bigger than that. I was remembering so much about what I could access as a kid. And so from there, it grew. I did my yoga teacher training, I did my meditation training, but still, because of the programming from society, from the outside world, from all the different ways that I was shaped and shifted from parents, teachers, coaches, friends and peers, I was living in this world where I was trying to check off boxes.
Mhm.
We were living in this linear life, right? It
Don't
was
d
like,
we're always trying to check off
we're
boxes,
always
aren't we?
trying to
Yeah.
check off boxes. So it's like, okay, I go to school, I graduate, I go to university, I get a good job. I remember feeling like I just had made it by working at this worldwide cosmetic company, selling hair color into hair salons. Um, and I would tell myself, oh, this is just a little passion project of teaching yoga in yoga studios or teaching people meditation. It's just something on the side that I do. And realizing very quickly when I was in this world in this corporate role, how much stress and anxiety and burnout people were having. And I was watching them. I remember being in a hair salon and literally watching people from this, which now I can know is my clairvoyance. So it was almost like I could see their soul outside of their body and the way that they were disconnecting themselves from the present moment. They were 10 steps ahead, living in the future, or super stuck in the past. And so I had said to these salon owners, I'll come in and talk about hair color, but also can I give some tips and tools in a workshop to your staff? Um, and from there, it was just this feeling of this is exactly where I'm meant to be. And because I built this really big connection now, which what I would call is like my guide, and I have a few of them, but I could feel again that same intuitive voice that would come through when I was in the car accident would speak to me in the same way of like, this is what you're meant to do.
Mm.
And now it took years for me to listen to it, as it does for most of us, right? There's so much negotiation going on from my ego saying, like, well, how would I make money? And what will people think? And like, who am I to think I could do something like that? But as time went on and I kept trying to negotiate it, it was undeniable that this is what I was meant to step into. And so through, really it would be over 12 years ago that I finally took a leap to step into this work and then full time doing one-on-one coaching and retreats and my mindfulness coaching app. And now I'm just really proud of my community that I've built, just watching them all transform to back to remembering who they are.
That is incredible. Over a decade
Yeah.
of dedication,
Yeah.
to this work. The number of people that you've impacted, the
Mhm.
number of people that you've seen transform. I mean, what does that mean to you? How does that make you feel on the inside when you think about all those connections?
Yeah, it makes me emotional. I could start
Because people
crying.
pour their heart out to you. They share everything with you in
Yeah,
a very vulnerable way.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like one of the things I feel so certain about is that I'm not afraid to hold other people's pain, And I think that the world is super noisy and the world is really scary. And I think that the world is telling you a lot about what you're not. And so over the last decade and beyond, I've really tried to challenge it. I've tried to challenge the noise. I've tried to challenge the conditions that the world puts on us. And through that, what I can see is that there is so many people who are just desperately trying to remember who they are. And it requires us to get quiet.
Mhm.
It really does. It requires us to actually really listen to feel. And so it's been such a gift and it makes me emotional because I'm so lucky I get to watch people feel every single day. But bigger than that, I get to watch people do something about it.
And transform.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's like a blooming, right? A
Yeah.
process where the moment that you're willing to sit with yourself, feel those feelings, hear those thoughts. I mean, that's one step. But the other step is trusting that voice inside. And I think that can be the hardest step for people is building that trust with your intuition. But I want to go back a few steps here
Sure.
because I think we need to just do kind of a Cole's notes on intuition
Hmm.
because you shared that your experience started as a child. It just came on the messages from source, the connection you had with source was just there. But I don't remember having that. I do remember having moments where I have very intuitive dreams or really strong feelings about something.
Yeah.
But how do you take that intuition? Maybe you've never really experienced it at all in your life. How do you grow it?
So the first thing I want to say about this, because I think so many people, like, you're not alone. I think so many people will say they don't remember having intuition when they're a child. But if you actually start to observe children, we are all born with intuition. There is a reason why you know how to communicate with your parent that you're hungry, that you're tired. There are certain signals that you know how to give them. It's because we are born intuitive beings. And what I also know by working with so many people one on one is that it wasn't very often our parent would turn to us and say, I believe you. And I watch parents because I'm around them. I have young kids. I have a 6-year old and an 8-year old. And I've even had conversations with friends where they're kind of laughing and going, oh my God, like they have this invisible friend that they keep talking about. And I tell her, like, just let, like, they're trying to squash it. Now they don't know that that's very real to that child, and that is their intuition. That's their clairvoyance actually being activated, and that's their practice of intuition. But due to societal norms, my parents included, they didn't know how to respond to it because also they weren't supported when they were young children
Mm,
around their own intuition as well. And so I deeply believe that all it means is that yours just wasn't honored and you didn't know how to work that muscle every
mm,
single day. It wasn't encouraged. And so a lot of us are told at a young age how we need to show up, how we need to act, how we need to stay inside the lines, and how we need to behave in order to be accepted into the world, how we need to belong in the world. And what happens is we have two different ways to build our life, build relationships, build a career. We can go into it by trying to belong and hope and pray that our authentic self shows up, or we can go into it as our authentic self and trust that we will be so magnetic that we will belong in the world no
mm,
matter what,
mm.
that we will be shown where to go. Life will unfold exactly as it's supposed to because we'll be listening inside versus outside of ourselves. So that's kind of my first thing around people who feel like they can't remember if they're intuitive. I want to encourage anyone that's listening right now to just trust that you were and that you are.
Mm.
I always will say inside, I have an intuitive coaching container. It's a 10-week program to master your intuition. And I will tell people that this is not a learning and earning. You don't get an A plus at the end of this container. It is truly a remembering.
That's the word I was gonna mention is it's not actually strengthening your intuition. In a way it is, but it's remembering your
Yeah.
intuition. It's remembering that connection that you have. I mean, I think that you might share the same belief that as me that we are souls living in human bodies. And children have an especially high connection um to that other realm because they just came from it.
Yeah, exactly.
They were just there.
Exactly. And I've had moments where my kids have talked to me about things like they remember being in my tummy, so it can be more on that remembering of what their soul was like. But then I also have things right now as my 8-year old asking me questions that are kind of challenging around, being an adult or feeling like they have questions about who people are and that maybe not feeling super comfortable with certain family members or certain friends. And they're like, I don't know. And what happens is, as a parent, what I want to do, because it's my programming, is I want to people please and say, "Oh, it's fine. Like, don't worry about it." And I'm trying to essentially and look, I teach intuition and I still catch myself doing this. I still catch myself trying to make what they feel a little bit smaller so that I stay in control.
Mm,
And it can be small things like that of what we're talking about, big things like your child saying that they have an imaginary friend or can remember what it's like being in your tummy. All of those things deeply matter because it's essentially saying to your child, I believe you, tell me more. Right. So if they say like, I don't really like being around like Uncle Jake or whatever. And it's like, I believe you. Yeah, I can see how you feel that way. Can you tell me more about what that feels like? so that essentially they can say, well, whenever I'm around them, I feel like a ache in my tummy. Right. So there's different conversations that we're having. And look, I'm not great at it because I was raised where it was to fit in.
Yeah. And I'm sure you probably notice it when your parents are around and they see you parenting your child differently than you were raised. And I've noticed it, from my in-laws, from my parents. Um, I think they agree that we have more knowledge and awareness of their little emotional beings. And I want to build trust with my kids.
Mhm.
So when they tell me something, I'm listening to them. I'm trying to really put the phone away and focus on them because I want them to know that they're the most important thing to me. But, you were saying earlier, though, that piece of the way that we were raised was so different. So I think sometimes for my parents, I think they think we're too easy on our kids, that we're giving them a free ride. And I'm like, I just approach parenting completely different.
Mm.
I think that my children are perfect expressions of who they are, and I'm allowing them to express it in all ways that they want to. Like my son just shared with me the other day, we have a big construction project on the road by our place, and he was asking when it was going to be done and if he could give a bouquet of flowers to the construction workers.
So beautiful.
My husband and I looked at each other and I was like, wow. I said, I don't think I've ever seen anybody give flowers to a construction worker. I said that to my son. And he's like, uh huh. And I was like, so if you want to do that, let's do it. I was like, we can even pick our own flowers and we can take it to them. And he's like, okay. He's like, but can you do the talking? But I mean, just that moment
Sweet.
of like one, listening to him,
Mhm.
hearing what he's saying, acknowledging it, and supporting it. I think we need more. I'm not saying I have all the answers. That's
No.
just one example. But I think oftentimes parents are maybe a little bit busy or they're on their phone or they're on the texting a friend. And so their kid says something. Oh, one second, 1 second. Yeah. Uh huh. What was that you said? And then you missed a moment.
Yeah, I agree. I think that more than ever right now, there are so many brilliant tools that are pulling us out of the present moment. And we're missing a lot of what's in front of us in our life.
Mhm.
A
Just
lot.
that connection.
Yep.
I think that connection, that human face-to-face interaction where I'm looking at you, you're looking at me, we get each other,
Yeah.
we're sharing an energy field, that's what we need. We
Yeah.
need more of right now.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's so hard for people to get to that place?
I believe that, I mean, I think there's a few reasons. Like I mentioned already, I think that there's some brilliant tools right now. Our phones would just be one of them. I mean, Netflix. Like there's things that are actually there to constantly make you feel like you are craving more. And it's this disconnection from what's in front of us. I think that there's a lot of things that are creating a lot of urgency in our life as well. And what it's doing is it's taking away deep meaning.
Mm.
So we have been fooled, I think, to think that there's like, I'll give an example is being able to order dinner on an app on your phone, right? So you can order your dinner, whatever it might be, and it can come to the door. And so what the how we're being sold is saying this is going to free up more time. But what actually ends up happening is we just pile on now 1,000 more things because we tell ourselves that we can actually do 10 different things at the exact same time. And instead of actually cooking a meal with your family, pulling up a chair for your toddler to be able to like throw in, whatever it might be into the pan and being part of something that can be super meaningful, we're ordering something from an app that's super quick and telling ourselves, great, check that box, right? We're still checking a quick box, but it's taking away meaningful moments in our life. We tell ourselves, well, with this time now that I don't have to cook dinner, I'll sit on the floor and play with my kid or ask them how their day goes. But I would challenge and ask somebody if that's actually really the case.
Mhm.
So I think it's really powerful to ask ourselves, like, what are the things that are adding convenience to our life? And what are the things that are taking away meaning? Or is that going hand in hand?
Yeah.
And you've got to have hard truths with yourself. You really do. The other thing I think is that the world's more divided than ever.
Mm.
And so it's creating a disconnect in us because there's this underlying sense of safety or lack thereof, underlying sense of acceptance and lack thereof. And we are built and wired to try to belong in the world. And that's where I kind of go back to this challenge of like, are you being authentic or are you trying to belong?
Mhm.
And we become so attached to how other people feel, how other people will respond and accept us, that we hide parts of ourselves. And when we hide parts of ourselves, essentially what we're doing is we're holding ourselves back from being vulnerable
Mm.
and being authentic and connecting. And so it's really fun to start to open up to people and be really vulnerable and to watch how people respond. And I love being able to say, I'm making you really uncomfortable.
You
And
know what?
be
Discomfort
like, yeah, you
d
are.
just discomfort is growth.
Oh my God. Like Sonia, I mean, you and I, like, fuck. I mean, when we're at parties, it's like we just are magnets to each other. Sure. Cause we just know we're not going to have to sit on this surface conversation and we can just, it's like, those are my people and
Ah,
you're my people. But sometimes I'm in certain situations where, yeah, I start to go deep and someone's like, wait, like we're not talking about Justin Bieber at Coachella anymore. And I'm like, no, I'm talking about the feeling of him as a child, like how it related to like XYZ. And then they're like, oh my God, I'm just trying to like just have a quick little dialogue with you and like move on. But I go right in for it. And you can
yeah.
watch people just slowly lean back, take a couple steps. And I'm like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable. But hey, I would way rather people know if I'm going to stand next to that girl, like she's going to be pretty honest and real with me and like we're going to have a good conversation versus like, you know,
Well, I think what you're pointing out is that when you are fully authentically yourself,
yeah,
some people will be attracted to you like
yeah,
a magnet. Others, might be oil and water, and that's okay.
yeah,
We all have a different kind of like secret sauce, I would say, that, might be really attractive to you, but not so much to the other person. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Like we're not I think our society has gotten obsessed with everyone liking them or being popular or being liked. And I don't think that that's that important. I think what's more important is being authentically yourself and finding those people that can, one, support you and help you shine your light even brighter. I, I too struggle with surface level conversations, especially in those kinds of like schmoozing settings.
same.
Like, I'm like you. I'm like, I'd rather talk about aliens.
But notice how you didn't say, and neither did I, that people have to be the same as you.
Oh, no. And I don't want that. I want to hear new ideas. I want to be challenged.
Yes.
And that's okay. That challenge might show me, hey, you're not my kind of person, or I'm not really vibing with you, or it's an invitation for me to go deeper. Why did that make me so uncomfortable? You
Yes.
know, whose belief am I carrying here? And why did it make me feel whatever way that it did?
Yeah. Because I'm noticing a lot of conversations I'm having with my clients around wanting to build a community or wanting to step into their authentic self, wanting to turn their light on and shine bright, listen to their intuition, be their highest version of them. What they also then will say throughout the conversation is that they're trying to find people that, yes, will be supportive of them, but that are aligned with them and AKA also the same as them.
Mm.
And it's great to find people who are like minded. I this is why I'm very drawn to you. Like I love finding connections where we can finish each other's sentences. But you like better bet that I also love finding people who have no interest in what I have interest in, but will stay curious, as will I, about each other's values, about
Mhm.
each other's feelings, thoughts, opinions, and beliefs.
Mhm.
I don't think that we're curious enough in the world. And so what we also can reflect on, and I encourage everyone to do this, is when our lives are built on external validation, when we're trying so hard to live this linear life to be accepted in the world, and we're checking off these boxes because we've been sold and told that these are the things that are going to make us happy. Can we not see as a society how we've now gotten to maybe these adult lives and it's not really worked out for us? And what it's done is it's caused us, because we're trying so hard to belong, is it's not allowed us to be curious anymore about other people
Mm.
and other people's, you know, differentiating opinions and feelings and beliefs. Like, there's just this line in the sand, and we throw down the word boundary, and I challenge it so much to people of like, no, that's just your discomfort. Like,
Mhm.
and maybe it's about softening your edges a bit and welcoming that person in and accepting them for who they are.
Yes. Yeah. And having a diversity of viewpoints that are welcome. You don't have to agree with everyone, but you also don't have to get into a screaming match with everyone as
No.
well. Why can't we just lean into that and say, that's a different thought. I haven't viewed it that way. Can you share more?
Yeah. And don't shift and shape yourself just because of what somebody else thinks. So I also hear people who are very, like, in my community, I have a membership, and I've had a lot of people inside the community say to me, wow, when I'm here, I just feel so safe. I can just be who I am. I can just speak my truth and live my truth. I feel so unconditionally loved and supported. And I say, this is amazing. This is a great landing point for you to keep going. But when you're out there on the main stage and there's family members and friends and community members who don't feel the same way as you, that's actually your invitation to get brighter. That's your invitation to stay authentically you.
Mhm.
The world needs your greatness.
Mhm.
And so what happens is we say, oh, I can't say that thing in front of my mom. I can't allow my sister to hear that I feel that way or that I'm going to that retreat. And like, I'm going to keep it really quiet. And I just believe that there needs to be deeper connection and conversations about what actually makes you you, and you're not attached to how the other person feels.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that you need to be a jerk about it, but you just allow yourself to like stay not attached and go like, well, I love myself. This is who
Mhm.
I am.
Yeah, and I that piece is really it's bringing up something for me because I'm
Yeah,
going on a
share.
retreat in a few weeks, and I know that for some of my family members, it's a bit like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing that?" And I'm more
Where are you
than
going?
um to Eckhart Tolle.
Oh,
Yeah, he's
yes,
having
you
a
are.
retreat in Whistler, and I'm really excited about it. My sister and my mom are coming. And I just know that there's been some rumblings in the family about why are you spending this much money on this? Who is this person? Yada yada. And none of the conversations have been directly with me.
Mm,
So I've just kind of taken my foot off the gas, so to speak. And I'm like, if you would like to have a conversation with me, happy to have that with
mhm,
you. But I'm not going to allow your judgments to make me feel small about my decision to spend my time there
mhm,
because we all get to make those choices. That's how we get to make choices in life. You make yours, I make mine. I don't judge you for all of your choices, and I would appreciate if you didn't judge me for all of mine. So I'm kind of sitting back and waiting. I hope there's not fireworks. But wanting to also approach that conversation with calm and understanding. Because I find so often we're not listening to, or we're not hearing someone to listen to them. We're hearing them to think about what we're going to say next. We need to listen to find understanding.
mhm.
What do you mean by that? Like going deeper, really understanding someone's viewpoint, frame of mind.
Yes.
Because I think that's the missing link. We put everyone in these silos, and then we put them off in those boundary boxes that you're talking about
Yeah.
earlier. And then we just leave them there. But why not have a deeper understanding of what makes a person come to that decision or that feeling?
Because isn't it so interesting when you start to think about how that person doesn't accept you as you are going to these retreats or maybe starting this podcast, having these conversations, whatever it might be. But when you actually hold a mirror, we also are not understanding or accepting of them resisting that
Mm,
thing.
hmm. Yeah, that's true. There is a bit of that there for me.
Sure,
How dare you question
of
me?
course. How do you not see
How do you
this?
not see how important
You're
this is?
missing out.
Yeah.
Oh, and then again, like, it will be now this again linear thing of like they're a high vibe, they're a low vibe. Like all these different ways that now we start to create these labels on like I'm better because I do this work versus you don't.
I often think that. the issues that people are triggered by is something that they're actually wanting to explore within themselves,
Yeah.
you know? So I'm thinking about that. And so when I have that conversation eventually, I'll let you know how it goes.
Well, I should share. It's so funny. So I've had this journey, and a lot of my community will ask me like, "How did you start sharing this stuff online and not worry about what your family would think?" And there's been moments where family have given me their opinions and have allowed their judgments to I've allowed their judgments to make an impact on me. But what I've noticed is if you can bring playfulness into it. So for example, I'll share my dad had made a comment about my Instagram at one point, and I said, you know, you are not my audience. I am not trying to talk to
I'm going to write
a
that one down.
68-year-old white male to try to get them to sit down and meditate. You are not my audience. And he's like, well, and I said, if you enjoy my work, great. But if you don't, mute me, block me. You don't have to follow. You aren't my audience. I'm not targeting
Mm,
you.
mhm.
But then I need to share is then I don't dim my light. I don't dim my interest. I don't try to stay small and not talk about things. And for his birthday this year, I got him a soul contract reading.
And how did he feel receiving that?
So it's so funny. At first, he thought it was me giving it to him. So he's like, wow, like what time are we meeting? And I was like, it's not with me. I was like,
Yeah.
it's with, yeah, and I had a beautiful human in Toronto that does it. And I said, well, it's like I set this up for you. And he's like, you could see him actually really like the idea of it. Like he was kind of playfully like, okay. And then I could see you kind of watching the room, and there was, my brother-in-law and certain people kind of like making fun of it, teasing it. But even my husband who like loves this stuff, you could see he was trying to kind of like shift and shape himself to be like, oh God, like, Court. Anyways, point being is then he got the reading, called me immediately after, had so much to say about it, actually loved it. Like you could see, he didn't say he loved it, but I could feel it. I mean, that was in April and he's brought it up with me almost every single time I talk to him. He'll bring up about like this contract reading and what is like it said. And so the point being is that made such a beautiful connection between my dad and I.
Mhm.
I love talking to him about it. I think that it's fun to now be able to just continue to just share things with him. I don't have attachment to like if he wants to or not.
Mhm.
I don't care.
It is interesting though, sometimes how people will show their curiosity to you. And I've noticed just starting this podcast, the people that are reaching out to me, it's like beautiful surprises.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's the other thing that happens is when you start to shine your light, when you refuse to dim your light, you start to naturally build that community that you were talking about earlier that you were hoping to bring in. I think we just need to be less afraid of being ourselves. What is the worst that can happen?
Yeah,
What is the worst that can happen when you start to put time towards your interests? And I think that it starts with just a small curiosity. I think that this road for me started with that, realizing that I've always been intuitive, going deeper into that, finding ways to strengthen it.
yeah.
And, it's like one little crumb after another, you find your way where you are. But it'll never lead you astray. Never when you follow your curiosity.
Exactly. And I think like going back into intuition, because when people say, oh, to practice my intuition means I have to maybe become a meditation coach or whatever it might be, they have these ideas of like, that means that I have to practice spirituality all the time. And that's what my career and life needs to be around. No, there are people right now who deeply feel this deep tug to become a screenwriter, to write their first book. Maybe it's like a romance book or something. There are people who actually really love just helping being admin and like being an accountant, or they've always dreamed about being a lawyer. Even let's just say the example from that book that has blown up, Strangers.
Hmm.
Have you heard of it? It's like,
No.
oh my gosh, it's so good. It's oh, the art. So she was just interviewed on Oprah. What is the author's name? It'll come to me. I'm sure everyone listening to this podcast right now is like screaming the author's name, but it doesn't matter. So it's this book called Strangers, and essentially it's a memoir of a divorce. It's so beautifully written. And in this book, talks about how she, when she was 18 years old, was taking a writing class in college, and someone, the very first time she made a presentation, made a negative comment about how they don't think that she's a good writer. Then she starts moving into law because she just said, well, if that guy says I'm a bad writer, then like whatever. She, 25 years later, she goes through this terrible divorce and she decides to start writing. And flash forward, she wrote a book. The book came out this January in 2026. It blew up, Sonia. And then she was on Oprah. It's still New York Times bestseller. It's been 5 months now. It now has a
Movie deal?
movie deal.
Okay.
Gwyneth Paltrow's
Oh,
gonna
wow.
be, yeah, she's gonna be
And so the book
playing
is
her.
about her divorce journey?
It's about her journey from divorce. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So her husband blindsided her to say, I wanted to get a divorce 2 weeks into COVID. And so she has two kids, and it's quite a beautiful book. And it's, more importantly, beautifully written.
Mhm.
The point of me saying this is that she intuitively always has felt a tug that she's a writer, but she allowed an external experience dim her light, to not listen to her intuition, to seek that external validation, to seek approval, to try to belong in the world. And she lived a life where, yes, of course, she did great things. She could maybe have said that like she was happy. But now, the moment that she put her pen to paper and listened to her intuition to write, look at what happened in her life, a life beyond her wildest dreams,
Mhm.
becoming a writer beyond her wildest dreams. And so, anyone who's listening that feels these tugs to go off and do something, whether it be to shift a career, to go travel to a new place, to say the thing, to send the text message, to apologize to the family member, like it doesn't matter what it is. It's listening to your own inner compass, your own inner voice, and to stop doing things for other people. It's so powerful. So when I feel a tug to give my dad a soul contract reading for his birthday, I'm going to listen to that. I'm not going to wait for approval and permission to say, is this okay for me to give this to you? I'm just going to stand in my power and my truth and turn my light on.
Mhm. Yeah, and the part about the book, like her changing her career path and going into law and instead of, staying on the path to pursue writing, she may not even have internalized that as like, this was I took someone else's external opinion and internalized it. Like, do you think that most people don't realize that they do that? I mean, I think we've all had occasions in our life where we decided to pivot because someone told us we shouldn't do whatever the thing is.
Oh, I talk to people all day long who have these moments that are micro moments. And I bet you this boy in the class, or your uncle who told you you can't be an actress, or I keep using the word uncle a lot as examples, but I swear I have good relationships with my uncles. But it's such a micro moment in people's lives, but it can make up the macro
Mm,
of what
mhm.
you experience.
It is so true. I mean, when I started off, I was 13 or 14 when I decided I wanted to be a journalist, and I had a clear vision. I used to watch a lot of Oprah,
Oh,
and she really inspired me.
yeah.
Like, I think there were so many spiritual teachers that she introduced audiences to at that time, many of whom, I started to read their books at like 14, 15, and I believe it shaped the person I am
Did you
today.
have the DVD set, the 50th anniversary?
No.
Oh my god, I got it when I was 17, and Sonia, I watched it, like, every
Oh my
day.
goodness. No, I was like that kid that came home from school and watched Oprah.
Yeah,
That's what I
I'm
used to
same.
do.
I loved it.
Uh, so where was I going with this though?
Well, about journalism that
Yes,
you
so
knew.
the journalism, yeah, and I knew I wanted to do this. My parents were supportive of me, and I went to a local TV station to get a tour and get an understanding of what that world looks like. And I won't name the person, but it was someone that was high profile working at that station. And he told me, why do you want to work here? It's so competitive. It's so this, it's so that. It was quite negative. And I remember for a couple of years, I backed away from it.
Mhm,
And I thought, like, I think a lot of it was I just didn't like that person's energy.
mhm.
So it turned me off of the industry altogether. Fast forward a couple years later, I came back to it and I thought, no, that's what I want to do. And when I talk to others that said, well, it's very competitive. How will you get a job? And I said, well, if everyone thinks it's competitive, how many people are going to go for it? I'm going to go for it. And, I think that actually what I was really doing was manifesting my future. I used a lot of visualization, but just taking a chance and betting on myself and knowing that that idea or that belief didn't come from me and being able to cast it aside at that age. I guess I have Oprah to thank for that.
Don't we all? But I think you listened to your intuition.
Yeah.
You listened to your inner voice before allowing the conditional parts of us, the ego, the one that tells us that we're too good or we're not good enough, and the external validation for someone to say you can do this. You listened otherwise.
Yeah. I think I just had the audacity or the confidence to say, no, I'm going to try it my way. Um, and I wish more people would take a chance on themselves
Me too.
and not put their dreams aside.
Yeah.
I think that those dreams are what leads you to that life of fulfillment.
Yeah.
And it might not go exactly that way. You might think you're going left and you end up going straight, and that's maybe the path you needed to be on. But you needed to take those steps in order to figure it out in the first place.
Yeah, I don't think anyone listening right now needs to go backwards into like, oh, if only I did,
Mhm.
because you're exactly in the place that you're meant to be right now. But if you're telling yourself again from this external validation, this conditional mind of words like it's too late, I'm too old, it's too diluted of a market, whatever the excuses are, whatever the negotiations are that are telling you to
Mhm.
keep holding yourself back, I just invite you to challenge them and say, start today.
Yes,
Just
absolutely.
start today.
It is really never too late.
Because your intuition is never going to give up on you. That is the one thing I know for sure in my bones is that your intuition will never give up on you and it will always lead you to joy.
What are some other ways that people can narrow down and be able to decipher what is their intuition? Because I think with the noise of today, it can be difficult when you're first starting maybe on a meditation practice to know, okay, what's my voice and what are, the voices of me just thinking
Yeah.
or having a random thought. How do you decipher it all?
So there's four different types of intuition. Okay. So there's clairaudience, which is exactly what you're talking about. It sounds like a thought, but it's not. There's clairvoyance, where it's essentially images and visions that you will get. Then there's clairsentience, where there's actually feelings and sensations that go on in the body. Then there's claircognizance, which is like this inner gut knowing. It's those moments that I have people tell me and I've experienced myself where like something takes over your body and like it's a non negotiable, like you don't even have control over it.
Mhm.
So, the first invitation I would say is to try to figure out which one of yours is the strongest because we have access to all four, but typically one or two is stronger than the others. So, if you're somebody who can visualize your future, if you're someone who can even maybe try a meditation where it's asking you to visualize a year from now, things that are possible, then that's a powerful way to start to exercise that clairvoyance. Why are you smiling?
I just
Because you
went
did it.
somewhere else.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did because I'm sure a lot of people listening right now are just starting to do that, right? So,
Isn't that so exciting though?
yeah.
When you finally when you allow yourself to think, "Ooh, how wonderful could it be?
Yeah.
How amazing could it be?" I think we are so conditioned to think of it's not going to work out. What if this? What if that? What if everything turns out way better than you ever thought it possibly could?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it will.
Oh, okay. Remind me to tell you after I go through the Claire's of a really cool practice because I
Okay.
don't want to forget.
Okay.
Um, okay, so clairaudience is essentially it sounds like a thought. Now I get that question a lot of like, how do you decipher what is essentially just noise and fear and ego to what is actually your intuition? So when you have an intuitive thought, it will be something that will come in that will really excite you. It will something that comes in of like maybe it's you should start a podcast, right? You hear this thought and it's almost immediate, your ego will meet it and your ego will start to negotiate. well, how will I afford the stuff? What if nobody listens? Like, what if nobody cares? Oh God, what will dad think? Like these ways that you start to negotiate. So even in just a very brief second, you'll be able to say, okay, your intuition is the things that make your body go like, whoa, that would be really cool. And then your ego can come in immediately after and negotiate.
Mm.
So it's to notice and have awareness of the negotiation and to be able to look at those negotiations. Sometimes I write those negotiations down to just say, like, ooh, this is all the conditions and the things that my ego are saying about it. And I'll literally sometimes say, you're not welcome here. And then I'll go into the practice in a sec. So then the clairsentience is essentially a feeling and a sensation. So if you're someone who can walk into a room and immediately feel the energy of a room, you have clairsentience. Mine is not very strong. There are so many moments where I leave situations and Matt's like, well, that was tense. Matt, my husband, he's like,
Yeah.
that was awkward. And I'm like, I didn't notice a thing. He's
Oh, really?
oh, yeah. It is like bottom of the barrel for me.
Mm.
I can feel people's energy. When I'm reading them, absolutely, clairsentience is there. But because I do intuitive readings and it requires so much of my clairaudience and clairvoyance to tune into how they feel, and I have so much certainty in myself, which is my claircognizance, my clairsentience is turned off. I actually practice turning it off because I can't take how they feel with me throughout the day. I actually have to really protect myself. I'd be very curious actually for
I
you as an interviewer.
well, I think that that is actually what has helped me excel.
Mm.
I think I've always been clairsentient, but I've also I have clairvoyant dreams, and the clairaudience has come through not as often, but the times that it has been pivotal in my life.
Yeah.
Um, but the clairsentience is probably one of the strongest for me. So I meet people every day, and I'll meet someone and then next minute I'm interviewing them live on television. So you get to read people pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I've realized now over time that what I'm actually picking up on is their energy. It's nothing they're saying.
Yeah.
I can know that I need to go a little softer with this, or whatever it might be. Um, so, and the same thing, like walking into a room where someone's just had an argument, like, "Oof,
Mm.
yeah, I can
Feel it.
feel that right away. And so much so, like, there's certain places I can't be. There's certain, um, well, I don't know if that's clairsentience, but
Oh, it
just,
is.
seeing anyone in pain,
Yeah.
like seeing any sort of wound or blood, like I
It
can't.
is because you feel it.
I physically feel it.
So then how do you, I'm curious, as a person who does this all day long, is interviewing people and feeling this energy, how do you not take it with you throughout the day? How do you cut it off?
Ooh, I think it depends story to story and
Hmm.
person to person. Sometimes I do take it home.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do think about it. I am human, but I think that there is a almost like a compartmentalization that happens in a way, and it's not to say it's a disconnection, but I have a break in my day also. So when I leave work, I like to work out first and then start my home
Hmm.
day.
Sure.
And I feel like
Good.
that for me is a great way to have some separation.
So you have a transition from different roles, which
Yes.
is important.
So I would say that that's probably one of the ways, but yeah, there are other times where it really does weigh on me.
Yeah.
And the way that I maybe take that energy and use it in a positive way is to inform myself.
Yeah.
It's to say, okay, I was really disturbed by that story. Let me find out more.
Mm.
Let me find out who can speak to this. How can we shine a light on this? How can we solve this?
Beautiful.
So I think that even if there are horrible negative things happening, there are ways to use your energy in a positive way to try and transmute it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel that you could really benefit from like an actual spiritual ritual,
So one thing I have
protecting
been doing is
yourself.
at night is I don't I miss some nights,
Sure.
but I either sage or use incense and really clear my energy field before I go to bed,
Yeah.
because I do pick up a lot of other people's energies.
Yeah.
So I might have to turn off my clairsentience just like you.
Yeah, and I think I mean, I do have to. So I don't want to encourage you to if it's something that's gotten you to where you are today. But I think also just protecting yourself with like a shield of light to be
Mhm.
able to visualize, because sounds like clairvoyance is strong for you too. But even before you enter into the building of work, like being able to protect yourself. And then even before you go back into your car, to cleanse what's not. Like sometimes I can feel these cords connected to people's souls, to people's energy, to their stories. And I'll actually have to visualize almost taking like a something to sever all the
Like a
cords.
sword.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
I've
I
done many cord cutting meditations,
yes,
but yeah,
girl, it's
they
perfect.
are really important, and you're right. I do need to be more disciplined in or just making it more of a practice.
Yeah, you want to.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Um, quickly about the activating intuition through clairvoyance and clairaudience. There's this practice I did at my soulpreneur retreat. And so it was a group of women entrepreneurs who are solo entrepreneurs and that are really anchored in creating businesses that are coming from just like the truth of who they are. It was so special.
Mm,
Oh my gosh, this was last month. And I shared with them this practice that you talk with another person, or you can, of course, do it on your own as well. You could do this as a writing practice, or you could just do this as, a voice note to yourself. And you, no matter what, always start the sentence with, wouldn't it be cool if? Okay. So you think about anything that you want to do. It could be traveling, it could be a relationship, it could be a career path, but you'd say, wouldn't it be cool if? Wouldn't it be cool if? And what happens is, especially if you're with somebody else, you go deeper and deeper and deeper into that expansion. Now, if you want to practice your clairvoyance, you close those eyes and you visualize every single time yourself going there. And you also listen to the next thing. And it's so fun because everybody agreed that there would be these ideas that would come through, and that was their intuition, but they'd be terrified to say it out loud to their friends or to the person that was in front of them. So, like, oh my God, what if she thinks this is crazy? But then you would start doing it anyways, right? You take the action. And we did this practice for about 5 to 10 minutes each person. And it was so cool because not only that happened, but then you're with a group of people who are like, okay, how are we going to make that happen? Let's go to the actual big, big dream that you landed on at the very end. And so, if anyone right now is saying, how can I start to work my intuition? That's a really beautiful practice. I would definitely encourage you trying to find meditations that are visualizing a year from now, 5 years from now. Claire, Claire audience, which is essentially, as I mentioned, it's a thought, but it's not. Will be activated through if you do flow writing practices. Have you ever done flow writing before?
yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
flow writing is like my ritual. And sometimes I will just trust the number that comes through and I'll say, Dear blank year old self. So it's like, Dear 84-year-old self or Dear 6-year old self. And I will write letters to myself at these different ages.
Mhm.
And trust what comes through. Don't let your pen stop moving for at least 10 minutes. Set your meditation or a meditation song or a timer. And that's a really another beautiful way to activate your intuition.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and be careful when you write that letter to your younger self because the tears will come.
Oh, yeah. It's so healing.
It is, and, it's not until you have that. I think that's why rituals are so important, or in daily rituals in particular, because it creates that container for intention. If you don't have that ritual, that appointment with yourself every day, how will you create that intention over time?
Yes.
So I feel having that momentum and practicing it every day will strengthen it over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am massive on my rituals, especially in the morning.
Okay, so tell me about your rituals.
Oh my God.
Like
Okay.
what is
Yeah.
your meditation practice look like?
Okay. So usually I'm up around 5:45 and I wake in the morning and I allow myself to just sit in stillness. Sometimes, honestly, it looks like just 6 conscious breaths. And I'm asking myself, what feelings are with me today? That's one of my favorite questions to ask myself first thing in the morning. And what I notice is that sometimes there's things I'm carrying with me from yesterday into today that are not mine. And they're things I actually don't want. So I will allow myself to visualize where I'm feeling it on my body. And I'll actually feel myself taking it off or dissolving it or cutting the cord. Sometimes I even actually energetically will pull it off and like let it dissolve. And then I'll ask myself, what's my intention for today? And I'll set an intention for the day. and then I'll reach for my journal and I'll flow write. And I usually flow write for about 10 minutes. So that's my practice. I do sometimes, if I'm feeling still a disconnect, every single morning after I do flow writing practice, I'll walk my dog. And I live in Deep Cove in North Vancouver. And so I'm very close to the forest, very close to the ocean. I feel so lucky about that. So I go into the forest with her, and sometimes I will listen to a meditation on my walk. I'll go into Insight Timer. I have some of my favorite meditations, even Spotify sometimes.
Mhm.
I've been listening to lately for anyone. This is so good. I'll actually put in the words in my Spotify search motivational speech,
Oh.
and it's like, oh my gosh, like Matthew McConaughey giving a motivational
Oh,
speech for 10
okay.
minutes, like in the morning, like there's something
Pump
about it.
me up.
I'm like in the trees. I'm like, yes, I
Yeah.
can. Or Denzel Washington's, it's so good. So, but yeah, it depends. Like I'm usually listening to something, or it's like silence and I'm just in the trees, just like feeling, and that's a meditation itself. So it's almost like a walking meditation. And then I come back and I move my body. Like I'll do a workout on Peloton, either it'd be like a hit or Pilates or something. And then I spend time with my kids. They wake up, I make them breakfast and I hang with them for a bit. And if I could fit in a sauna and a cold plunge, which is I'm grateful to have in my backyard, I will, but it's not like a must. Like
Okay.
just really what I said there was it. So I have to move in some way, breathe with intention in some way, and write in some way every day.
What about on the days where things didn't go that way?
Mhm.
Like, you didn't get this in, you didn't get that in. Do you feel the difference in your body of how you're feeling as opposed to if you had gone through your morning, practice?
So this is where I challenge everyone, because notice how I didn't say I have to move for 15 minutes, write for 10 minutes, and meditate for 30. There's none of that. I can move in some way no matter what. If my kids wake up, I mean, my kids join me no matter what, so it doesn't matter. They know the rules. But it's like, if there's, let's just say something, I don't know, I'm on vacation or whatever, and like, I will be getting ready and listening to it, and I'll dance in my room, like, or I'm like, I'm something is happening where I can still move my body, or I decide instead of driving somewhere, I'll walk, or I'm writing something. It's like I can just write down one sentence of what I'm grateful for.
Mhm.
Like that takes 20 seconds, or I can just take 6 conscious breaths when I'm driving. So, is it perfect? No, of course it's not perfect, and I love when it's like my own sacred time. But I don't allow conditions to decide whether or not I'm going to go inwards.
Mm.
And when I changed that for myself, everything shifted. I had a person write me actually yesterday because I shared a video of my kids, or my little guy waking up in the morning, and he was working out with me. And I was in tabletop, like, so my hands and knees on the earth, and he was on top of me. And someone was like, that sounds like my effing nightmare. Like, I would lose my shit. And I said to her, she goes, that would have made me so mad. And I said, I'm really curious, for the sake of like the practice and the share. Can you tell me why? And she said, oh my gosh, when I'm working out, sometimes at the gym, if someone's breathing too loudly, chewing too loudly, if my kids were waking up in the morning, I would get so angry. And I just feel like everything has to just be in a certain way in order for me to feel really good about what I'm doing in the morning. And I said to her, I hear you, but what is the point of your practice? Why are you doing? And I would invite anybody right now listening to ask themselves, why are you journaling in the morning? Why are you meditating? Why are you taking this sacred time for yourself? My answer, and I think a lot of our answers, are to regulate, right? We're trying to do something in order for us to regulate our bodies, to allow ourselves to really notice how we feel, so that when we're out there on the main stage, we can show up as the highest version of ourselves. And so, what a beautiful thing to actually work out some of your shit on the mat in a safe place when your kids wake up and interrupt you, when a person's chewing too loud at the gym. In that moment, that's an invitation for you to allow yourself to practice letting it go, right? When there's situations where I can't do my practice in the morning, I'm like, what an opportunity for me to challenge myself to soften and be okay with this. Because in that moment, it's my morning ritual being interrupted, but I know also that there's other moments where there's a phone call that comes in that I'm not expecting, or there's traffic that I'm hitting that I wasn't expecting. There's things that go our way every single day that, or don't go our way every single day, that can completely dysregulate how we feel. So the entire point is to practice the muscle to regulate the body. And otherwise, if we're just waiting until everything is absolutely perfect, we'll be waiting forever.
Yeah. That is a really
I
good
could go
point.
on about that.
And I think no, but it is so important because I think oftentimes, you know, when people think about regulation or, removing stress from their lives, it is viewed as this all these things I have to change in my life. I have to change this, I have to change this, I have to change my routine, I have to change my job. No, you don't have to change anything in your life. You need to change how you respond to the stress.
Yes.
And so that's the hardest part because that actually involves real change at your core. So I want to share with everyone that this is our second time sitting and recording this podcast
Yes.
because
I love you sharing this.
the first time was a big
Oh, I loved it.
learning moment for me in the technical aspects of hosting a podcast. But yeah, we had an audio issue.
We did.
So we had this beautiful conversation. Honestly, maybe it was too sacred to share with a larger
I'm
audience.
going to
I
say
don't know.
yes.
I'm not sure what the learning is there, but after I said goodbye to you, I came downstairs and I was just so excited to listen to all of our great little nuggets. And then I pressed play and I was like, wait a minute. What's happening? I can see us, but I can't hear us. And my husband was working out in the or in our garage. And I go over to him. I'm like, Chris, we might have a bit of a problem. Try not to freak out about it. When you get off the bike, can you come take a look, please? He's like, okay, yeah, no problem. I came and I sat back down and I looked at some of the things he told me to check. And I realized it's not there.
Yeah.
The audio is not there. And I sat in this chair and I just let myself feel it. And I just let myself think about how am I going to react to this?
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to react? And I honestly, as upset as I was for wasting your, I don't want to say wasting, for
No.
inconveniencing you or not having that recorded, I felt bad uh, for that. But then I realized, well, we got to spend time together. We had a beautiful conversation. That's okay.
Yeah.
We can just do it again.
Yeah.
And my husband came downstairs and he thought I was going to tear a strip off of him. And he's like, okay, yeah. He's like, so this little box here, yeah, I was supposed to click that. And I was like, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go pick up our son from school. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
And I left. I just got some fresh air and I never freaked out about it. And I
No.
was so proud of myself for not doing
Yes.
that.
Yes.
But that's what I'm talking about. It's the changing your reaction to a stressor.
To a response.
Yes.
You literally move from a reaction to a response. It's so powerful. It's so beautiful.
And things like this happen to everyone every single day.
Yeah.
So it's an invitation. Next time something goes, off of your plan or not according to your plan, how are you going to respond
Yeah.
to it? How
Eh,
will you choose to
Yep.
respond?
There's a couple things I lean on. Of course, moving from a reaction to response, I'll say that to myself. The other thing I'll say is, can I observe this without absorbing it?
Mhm.
So I'll allow myself to really observe what's going on in my body without naming it as I am, but it's how I feel. Right. So, like, ooh, I feel really uncomfortable. Like, oh, wow, I feel whatever it might be. Doesn't mean that that's what you are. Right. I feel really bad. It doesn't mean that you are bad.
Mhm.
So that's really important. Along with sometimes I'll say to myself, well, where am I going? Right? It's like you nailed it. Like we just had a beautiful conversation. That first round was so fun, as is this one. We're building such a beautiful friendship and there's no attachment. Like it's really, I felt not, I was like, okay, no problem. Like I feel bad for you because I know you're probably dying inside, but like it's okay.
Mm.
And we made it work. And it's like, because if we feel like we're going somewhere or climbing this ladder or trying to build this linear life, checking off all these boxes, you are right. You are going to get really frustrated when things don't go your way because you feel, again, like you have everything to go in perfect working order in order for you to be okay.
Do you think part of that is because of these sanitized lives that we see on social media that people, just believe the highlight reels that people are putting out and not really
Mm.
understanding that everyone goes through struggles. You might not post them all, but they're there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was having a conversation actually with a client of mine this morning about just a few things that she's been feeling within. And she was judging herself by saying, I don't share this on social media. And I do think that we're seeing a lot of people's highlight reels. I think social media is incredible for many different ways. I mean, it's how I built my community. And like I mentioned before in the container in the retreat, where I'm talking to a lot of people about their business and what to share on social media. Do you share the vulnerable parts?
Mm,
I believe that people need to earn your story a little bit. So, in a situation like you and I, people who spend an hour to listen to this podcast, of course, they get to hear our story. They get to go a bit deeper with us. And I think we both share enough on social media to be real. I don't have to like wear makeup on social media. I don't have to have everything look perfect. I don't change the way my house looks before I film. Like I will just show up as me. But if I've had a fight with my husband, I don't go on social media and talk about it. You know what I mean? But if I do a mastermind every single week, and if I'm talking about um like feeling versus identity and about feeling bad versus I am bad. And then I will bring up a situation that maybe happened with my husband that week so that they can understand that I'm a real human too. But you know what? They exchange something with me. They
mm,
exchange their time, their energy, and their money with me in order to be in my membership. So they've earned it. They've
mhm,
earned this conversation with me. They've earned to know more about me. So what I would, my answer about social media is it's okay if you're seeing a highlight reel or if you're sharing mostly a highlight reel. But when you are again out there on the main stage, at the parties, at the dinner tables, and a friend says to you, "How are you?" And all you do is just want to say good and share what's really good because you're not willing to be vulnerable and honest, that is something to check in with
mm,
because it's not about performing. It's not about being perfect. It's about making connection and being vulnerable. And that's, I think, I had this workshop last week. Oh my God, Sonia, it was hilarious. I had told this group, it was at a restaurant and it was a restaurant chain. And they, near the end there, I was talking about vulnerability and connection. And I had everybody break into pairs. And I said, for 1 minute, you're going to start the sentence with something I don't often tell people is. And then the other person's going to do the same thing. And I watch people be like, no, like people were like dying. And I'm like, and go. And so, and so it was 1 minute.
oh my goodness.
I was like, you can all handle it. It's 1 minute.
I
Go.
love that
Oh,
question.
people were like, oh my God. And so at the end, I asked people like, how did you feel? And, at first everyone's like, I was really hard and I felt really like uncertain about what to say. And then I said, now, how more connected do you feel to the person in front of you that you've been working with for some of them over 10 years?
Mhm,
And they just connect with them more in 1 minute than they had in 10 years. So my point being is like your question around social media highlight reel. Yes, I do think it's there, but what about in person, real
mhm,
connections, vulnerability, being honest, tell people things that you don't often tell people, let people in on your life a little bit.
mhm.
Of course, the ones that have earned it and the ones that you feel you can trust, but at the same time, I don't know, you got to push yourself a bit.
You were talking earlier about, not being afraid to feel other people's pain.
Mhm.
So, say for instance, I feel like sometimes people don't want to hear how you're actually doing. They'll ask you, "Hey, how's it going?" And I could be like, "Well, honestly, this week has been a doozy. I am got blindsided by this." And you start to notice their attention drifting elsewhere. It's like they weren't actually asking you.
Oh, and this is where the fun comes in because you can say, where'd you go? They're so
Where
much
did you go?
I'm like,
Yeah.
"Where'd you go?" I'm like, you don't wanna actually hear it?" And they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god," they're like, "Sorry, like, I just didn't know what to say." And I'm like, "It's okay." It's because we can be playful to not attach ourselves to it. Like, you
Yeah.
can just name it a bit.
And that's okay,
Mhm.
right? Like, people are people. We all have
Yeah.
our moments.
Yeah, it's really fun to be playful with it. Like, if you
Yeah.
can be honest and vulnerable and you can watch people get really uncomfortable. I had this woman, we were at this party and again, so funny I bring up Justin Bieber again, but she was trying to talk about how she wanted like Hailey Bieber's wedding ring. And then she commented about my ring. And there was a situation as a teenager where my dad and my parents were, close to separation. And then, kind of as an apology, whatever, to reconnect, my dad had given my mom a piece of jewelry. And to kind of clear the air, a couple, like, decade later, my mom was like, I'm just going to give this jewelry to you guys. And so she commented about my ring. And I said, oh, well, this is where it comes from. And I shared with her the situation that happened to me as a teenager. Sonya. Like, she was we were just talking about Hailey Bieber's ring, and now you're opening up about like this. And I was like, are you uncomfortable that I'm telling you this? And she's like, yeah. Like, so the point being is like, it's okay. It's just their stuff. It's not ours.
Yeah.
You just
And
have to
that's
have fun with
okay.
it.
That's okay that sometimes some people just want to have a surface level conversation. I don't.
No, and that's
So if
why,
you come to me with
yes,
surface level shit, I might not listen to you.
it's exactly as we say, right? You and I are going to find each other at the party.
Yeah.
We will. I know that we will, and
Yeah.
we have. Like, so that, and I also watch someone like her and other people avoid me at parties, and I'm not attached. That's okay, because
Yeah.
if I did sit next to them, I'd have to have the surface
Mm.
conversation, and I just can't.
And one thing I want to talk about, this kind of connects with what we're talking about right now, is noticing also how your nervous system feels around certain people, like when you're having that conversation. And maybe, you know, were you aware that that might happen? Like, did you feel that there would be that openness to your share?
Yeah, like, specifically to the person asking me about the ring, for sure. Like, I've known her for long enough to know
Okay.
this is gonna make her incredibly uncomfortable. But again, it challenges everyone who's been listening that says, like, "Yeah, I do hold this back from my parent. I do hold this back from my friendships, or I do not say this thing in the schoolyard when I pick up my kid." What I challenge you, and this would be me, right? And so, as I began to learn that the more and more I'm just myself, that some, again, as my authentic self, will be drawn to me. I'll become this magnet with my light on, and I will belong with some of my soul sisters. And others, I would just be trying to fit in to belong, but I wouldn't be my authentic self. And it's okay if those relationships and connections fall away.
Mhm.
Now, it doesn't mean I have to burn it all down and be a jerk about it, but I can definitely just stand in my truth, be my truth, respectively, lovingly be curious about other people, and of course, I stay curious about specifically some of the people I have in my life that just can't go deep. Um, and they know, but oh my gosh, I also know some of these people will reach out to me when they want to,
Yeah, that's
you
right.
know?
Because we're all going through different seasons, right?
Yeah.
And they're just maybe not ready yet.
I had one friend who, like, wasn't this person specifically I was just earlier talking about, but that has a hard time going deep. And she wrote me saying, I don't know who else to reach out to. I just had a panic attack. And she was like at her house alone. She did not know, but she knew I'd drop everything and show up for her.
That's amazing.
But it's because I've been consistent with my authentic self, and she's watched me be that.
Mhm.
Now she didn't reciprocate it until that moment, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you showing up as your authentic self was wasted in any way,
Exactly.
right? It counts.
No time ever spent on yourself and being your authentic self is ever wasted.
I saw a quote the other day that says we change the world when all of us become our true
I
selves.
believe it.
And I do as well.
Mhm.
And I see so many people trying to check the boxes, trying to put the square peg in the round hole. And it's like, it's not gonna happen. And the only way I see that you can find some peace within is when you actually sit down and listen. When you strip back all the layers of the noise, who are you? Who are you when everything else is gone? You can do some inner child meditations. You can
Sure.
find everything that you need, but until you are willing to actually take a mirror to yourself and sit with your thoughts.
And sit with your behaviors.
Mm,
That's what I've noticed in my own life when you become again observing, not absorbing, and you practice that and you have the rituals like we're talking about, and you get really curious about yourself and you listen inwards. Then what happens is you become very aware when you're showing up in a misaligned way.
mhm,
And one of the things that I grew up in was more of a chaotic household. In order to be heard, I had to be loud. And meeting my husband and a couple years in where he's like, we got to work on this. Like, this isn't how I want to have a relationship. And in my mind, I'm like, this is normal. Like, this is what I grew up with. I had to regulate my nervous system to feel safe to speak in a really kind way. And I know that sounds crazy, but
I did too.
you did.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. Because well, I come from a, Punjabi
Sure.
Indian household, things are loud, everyone's opinionated, there's lots of sounds, and everything's welcome. Whereas my husband, he's German, and he grew up in a very different, quiet kind of household where people don't really raise their voice, and, he's fit in really well with my family, but he has informed me a lot about the way that I react in situations. And so I'm much more aware. And I think my communication style has actually changed quite a bit.
Same.
Not completely, but it's changed.
And isn't it interesting? I don't know if you feel this way, but there's moments where I want to react. I want to yell, right? I want to be honest with you, I want to get scary because that's what was shown to me. My mom would get really scary if I went against what she said or if she was mad about something. So I tell myself the only way for me to make an impact on my family is to show up that way. That's how I'll be respected and heard and listened to. Once I started to understand that that's my programming, that's all just what I saw, that's just essentially what I was programmed to believe, and I've challenged it, it's so interesting to feel it and to notice, whoa, I really want to do this, and to actually decide I'm going to do it in a different way,
Mm,
to come into the room differently and say, like, hey, I feel really scared about this situation, or I'm feeling really unsettled about it, and I want to try to talk to you in a really nice way. Like, and naming those things and coming at it differently and actually being heard way more and respected and connected way
mhm,
beyond what I could even believe to my kids, to my husband. But it's actually a safety thing. Like, it didn't feel safe for me for so long to do that. And even sometimes today, it doesn't feel safe for me to do
mm,
that.
mm. Yeah, it can be uncomfortable, right? Like
Yeah,
putting that mirror on yourself and realizing that you have work. We all have work to do. I'm a
always.
work in progress, and I think I shared with you last time that my husband has a wonderfully calm way of showing me and reminding me when I'm getting out of line. I'm a passionate person,
I love
like
it. I
I
love it.
have my saucy, spicy side to me. That's just the way I am. But just that awareness that letting the thought live in my head before it comes out of my mouth,
Mhm.
thinking about it and choosing to respond instead of react will change your life.
Yeah. It truly will change your life.
Mm,
And it's a bonus for everyone else, sure, but it actually impacts you the most.
mhm. Yeah, there's so many things that I wish people would think about or would remember or at least ponder for themselves how true it is because I feel like everything is an energetic exchange. You were talking about it earlier. So I feel like our time, our attention, our money, our currency,
Mhm.
they're all commodities right now.
Yeah.
So if you're not feeling well or if you're feeling scattered, where are you putting your time and attention? Where are like really
I know.
start to notice it.
Yeah.
I have really put my phone down a lot more in the past couple months. I'm not watching very much television anymore, and I'm trying to spend a lot more time outside. Um,
Beautiful.
but just being aware of those things, it doesn't mean you have to change your entire life right away, but just be aware of it.
Mhm.
It can be uncomfortable to change your ways, but I just wish more people would be willing to.
Yeah. It starts with curiosity. It starts with asking yourself, like you said, where am I spending my time? Where am I putting my energy? Where energy goes, energy grows, right? What's my beliefs? What are the stories I keep telling myself over and over again? We have so much more control than we think we do. Like we hold a wand to our life. We can be the main character. We get to lead every single day, but it comes down to our choices.
Absolutely. I mean, I firmly believe that we create our reality
Yeah.
through our thoughts and our energy.
Yeah.
Um, and we also have so much power in where we spend our time and attention. So I want to bring it back to currency because I've been thinking about every single purchase or
Mm,
investment
beautiful.
that I make now. And I call it an investment because every time you have a transaction, it is an investment.
Mhm.
It's an investment in that other person's business. It's an investment maybe in the food that you're eating. What are you investing in? You can take your power back real fast
Yeah,
by deciding where you're going to put your money and attention.
I know. I love that. I think that's so inspiring for everybody listening right now, for sure.
So, like, you know, what, for instance, this was back at Christmas, and I was thinking about, okay, what am I going to gift some of my colleagues? And I ended up going kind of an easier route with just some gift cards, but I was like, okay, well, I can be intentional about this. So let's go local. Let's make sure that these dollars are going to stay here and I'm not spending it with some company that is not even based in this country. It's a small thing, but I felt really good about giving
Mhm.
it because I thought about it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's so important it comes back to intention, right? And to make our life sacred. But we can even go back to at the very beginning of this conversation of how the world's so noisy.
Mhm.
We're so distracted. We're 10 steps ahead. We have full schedules.
Mhm.
We're in the state of urgency.
And it's like, why? Why are we in this state of urgency? It's like everyone thinks they have to jump through this hole, check this box in order to get it right with the algorithm. Who the F cares about the goddamn algorithm? I don't care. I do things in a completely. My friend the other day was like, "Oh, I love all your social media posts. You're choosing all these trendy fonts." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, I don't know. I just pick what looks good in the moment. And part of it is like a bit of an FU to the algorithm,
Sure.
maybe, because I don't want to be ruled by it. I will live my life the way I want to,
Yeah.
what feels good for me inside. And I'm sorry, but spending an hour thinking about what font I'm going to use um, is not effective.
No. No, it's not. But I think people are in fight or flight. Their nervous systems are based more off of external than they are internal. And it's just another source of distraction, another
Mhm,
source of numbing out,
mhm.
getting really stuck in the future or stuck in the past.
And who benefits from that?
Mm.
Who benefits from us being disconnected?
Well, the economy.
Yes. And the really large corporations
Yes,
that
the
are.
large. That's what I mean, not the
Yeah.
local economy,
No,
but yeah.
no. But really think about that.
Mhm.
Who is benefiting from your disconnection?
Yeah.
And then just unplug.
Yeah, I would challenge everyone, and I'm gonna challenge myself too. Maybe you and I can check in a week
Okay.
from now,
Yeah.
to be so intentional with our purchases and really try our very best to know where our money's going. So even if it's that we are, you know, oh God, what's the first thing? Like buying our kids a Zevia, whatever, which is like a brand that's kind of coming. I think it's from like Coca-Cola or Pepsi now, but
Oh,
it's
like
like,
the drink?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like, okay, we at least consciously can say, okay, I'm giving money to them. Okay, I'm giving money here. Okay,
Mhm.
my money's now going to this.
Mhm.
Like, I think it's that to just be really aware of like when we're looking at our grocery cart, who's getting my money? Is it local?
Mhm.
Is it organic, like local farmers here in Vancouver, or is it gonna or in BC, or is it gonna be like just really being really conscious and aware?
Yeah. And I mean, I think if, you know, you can use that just as a tool to then take it a step further and then think about where you're putting your thoughts,
Mhm.
and then
Absolutely.
you can go deeper and deeper. But I think the money thing is a great place to start
Yeah.
because it's tangible.
Yeah, sure, and everyone does it every single day.
Yeah.
Have you ever done the ahimsa practice?
No.
So it's something I learned when I was in my yoga teacher training, and I often will assign it to clients that I'm working with, where you spend one entire day writing down all the different negative thoughts that you have about yourself or other people.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's heavy.
yeah.
Okay.
It's really big. And then the next day, you spend an entire day writing down all the different thoughts, even things you say out loud as well, thoughts about yourself or other people that's positive, and especially things that you say out loud on both days too. Um, it's an awareness piece.
Mm,
It changed my life.
mm,
When I did it, I that was a very pivotal moment for me, that
mhm,
practice.
mm.
I was like back in 2011 and I was like, "Whoa, I I'm not even conscious of this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. How the self-talk,
Yep.
that tape that's playing in our head right now.
The
Um,
ego.
yeah. And I think, do you think people understand when you say ego, what you mean by that? Because I think, the word ego, well, I think if people are listening to this podcast, they probably know which ego we're talking
Sure.
about. But there's the id and the ego. And how would you describe, I guess, the way that the ego shows up in destructive ways?
So I will often teach that there are two different perspectives that you can go into life with. There's the soul's perspective and the ego's perspective. The ego, to me, is the perspective in which you make decisions based on the external world. It is the part of you that is on conditional, like in the conditional mind. So it's saying, I need to act this way, look this way, have this thing, be this thing, achieve this much in order to feel something. It also sees you as you see yourself as separate from other stuff. So when you have, let's say, envy in someone and you say, oh, I want that thing. If you have this intuitive tug towards the thing that someone else has, that is because your soul's perspective, your intuition actually already has it inside. And one of my girlfriends laughed. She's like, you always use this example, but um, I do because there's a reason why I don't have any tug to become a chef in my life, right? I don't see chefs and think, man, like that's so cool. I want to do that thing. Or a screenwriter, right? I don't think that thing. Or even an actress. Like I don't feel this tug because that's not in my soul
Mm,
to do that.
mhm,
Whereas some of us do. And so when we see something in someone and we believe that we're separate from it, that's your ego's perspective. Again, the negotiation that come through as all the reasons why you're too good or you're not good enough. And it limits you. Your
mm.
ego will always put limitations on you.
I mean, I think it's scarcity mindset,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's seems ridiculous to say that there's only this way or that way, but when you start going down this path, I'm like, okay, the ego is scarcity, it is judgment, it is fear. The soul is love, it is abundance, it is acceptance.
Yeah.
It's two sides of the same coin, right? Which one are you going to choose? And I think, when you start to open up that soul connection that you have, you realize, well, the universe isn't on a budget. Allow
Exactly.
yourself to dream.
Yeah.
Be that
Beautiful.
be that wanderer in the clouds. And I have this painting that I made for my son before he was born, and it says, we are made of stardust and dreams and magical things. And I believe that. And I believe that, and I instill that belief in my kids so that they know that they are infinite beings with infinite potential.
Yeah.
But the moment we allow our ego to be in the driver's seat, we lose all of that connection.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. And I think that some of us aren't even conscious of when that happens. And as you begin to do the work, I mean, warning sign. Like, you start to recognize how much of our life is dictated by the ego. Have you seen the movie Inside Out 2?
Yes.
Okay. I actually assign this to people at my in my intuitive
Okay.
container that they have to watch it because that movie for me was so pivotal in a visual of how we allow certain, like you said, fear, scarcity, ego be at the control panel of our life, right? And sometimes it is just noticing, whoa, anxiety is really driving this decision. What happens, it's not about, and spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen Inside Out 2, I'm just going to say the ending here, but it's not about how anxiety disappeared and dissolved. Notice how they just put her aside and put her just in the chair at the back.
Mm,
It didn't mean that she has to go away.
mhm.
So it doesn't mean ever, and I believe this because I've been doing this work now for so many years, is that I still have fear. I still sometimes have scarcity. I still have this mindset of lack, anger, all the things, but it doesn't drive my life. It doesn't make my decisions. And that I think is the most important thing is you decide what kind of a emotion or feeling you want at the control panel.
That's beautiful, and I love that visual. That they got a lot of things right in those
Nailed it.
movies, and I was having a similar conversation with my nephew, um, and we were just talking about, frame of mind, and, he was sharing with me that sometimes he has a hard time, like, maybe holding on to positive idea or belief, and believing it to be true, and I thought, "Okay, I'm gonna use this as a learning experience." So, I asked him to feel into his body what it feels like if the thing happened. And
Mm,
he's like, "Okay." And so he felt into it. And I was like, "How did that feel for you, like, in your body?" And he's like, "Amazing." And I was like, "What if you just allow yourself to believe that?" And he's
mhm.
like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Just you already feel better. Why not just allow yourself to stay there?" And I saw the switch turn in him. And I think it's a little bit of it's a trust. And we've talked about trust before, but it's learning to trust yourself and think, why can't we just think about the best case scenario?
Yeah.
And not the best case scenario in everything. Like, I realize, that sounds very general, but allow ourselves to fantasize of the best case scenario actually happening.
Yeah.
I remember you sharing with me that a lot of times we get in our own way,
Yeah.
right? Maybe our intuition is speaking to us, but we're not choosing to listen to it.
Always. Yeah. So
Th-
many of us.
How do we build that trust?
Well,
Is it just repetition?
yeah, I believe so. I really believe the things that you repeat over and over again will become the reality of your life. This is like neuroplasticity, right? We can change the way that our brains wire and fire together. But if your entire life you were programmed and taught not to trust yourself, right? And I know a lot of people were raised in homes that were scary, or they were raised in homes that were super strict and created a lot of limitations and were told often not to color outside the lines. So be gentle on yourself as
Mm,
to why you can't trust yourself,
mhm,
but be honest with yourself too as to why that trust might not be there. From there, um, I mean, I love and anyone in my community knows I often will post and say and share from the mountaintops, do one brave thing a day and you'll live a life you love. And I
mm,
say it to my kids all the time too. So even if it's something like, I live in Deep Cove, so I'll go down to the ocean to swim and my kids are like, I want to come. And then we go down and they're like, no, it's too cold. I'll say to them, just do one brave thing a day and you'll live a life you love. Your intuition said you wanted to do it. So even just if you put all the way up to your knees in, just try it. So it's these things to try of like the I can, that anything is possible. Because why not you?
mhm,
There's so many reasons why the world is telling you to stay small. And so even just sometimes finishing that sentence of what if and really actually be honest with yourself of like, does your answer of what if go to all the things that can be scary and hard and fearful? Like, does it limit you? And could you actually try to tell yourself every single day, what if it all works out? I also feel like if you look in the mirror and you say things the way that your nephew would maybe say things to yourself, to try to say positive things to yourself. You can't really lie to yourself either. Like you can really say these beautiful positive things to yourself by looking in the mirror and feel them and look into your soul. So I know for some of us, it might seem really woo to try this practice, but talking to yourself in the mirror is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's
I
hard.
love it. I know it's
It's
so
hard.
uncomfortable.
So I think, I have a morning mantra I like to recite, and I recite it looking in the mirror when I wake up in the morning,
It's beautiful.
and just noticing the differences between when I said it yesterday as opposed to today. I woke up today and I was like, "Oh, this feels good today." Like,
Yeah.
I feel it today.
Mhm.
Um, and that's okay. You might not feel 100% every single day, but it's noticing those differences,
Yeah.
has really been interesting for me, and it's also been very grounding to just wake up and start with that intention and that practice.
I'm curious, did you feel certain when you started saying it, like when you first started your mantra? Yeah.
No, it felt really foreign, kind
Yeah.
of like a little bit forced, and like looking at myself felt
Awkward. Yeah.
uncomfortable. And now there's some days I can look in the mirror and I can
Yeah.
say it with conviction.
I
And that
wanted you to say that to let people know because we think we have to say those things, do those things when we're actually certain about it. It's actually the other way around, you know? Start now.
Yeah, the days where you wake up and you're like, I feel like shit,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna look in the mirror and I'm gonna say, I am love,
Yeah.
because I am.
Yeah.
And love can look different ways.
Absolutely. I think it's so important, and I'm not a person that will say, like, "Fake it till you make it," but I think that there is a, fine line behind do it before you're ready,
Mm.
do it before you're certain.
I think
Yeah.
it's about putting yourself in expansive situations,
Mhm.
right? And that also goes with expansive relationships as well. You were talking earlier about when you might not feel like you're drawing in the same people as you, or you were talking about someone wanting to build their community and have like-minded
Mhm.
people or
Yeah.
the same people. And it's like, you don't want the same people. You want people that are 10 steps ahead of you,
Oh god, yes.
doing what you want to be doing so that you can see it's
Yeah.
possible. And I don't mean that from a perspective of like you're trying to steal from them or
Oh,
like,
no.
piggyback on them, but it's a beautiful thing to be around someone who has already walked through that fire
Yeah.
and has shown, through their actions what is possible.
Yeah, I just posted about this today, about imposter
Yeah.
syndrome, and I challenge everyone right now, imposter syndrome is an excuse. I'm sorry, but it is because we are always learning. So take that sentence, that idea out of your vocabulary. Because when I started doing my workshops, when I launched an app, when I started a membership, teaching my first yoga class, I wasn't an expert. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was willing to learn and try and work that muscle to get more and more comfortable.
Hmm.
No different than saying that positive affirmation to yourself in the mirror.
Hmm.
And we need to be more gentle on ourselves because I give this analogy to my kids all the time. And sometimes I show them videos where I'm like, want to see yourself learn how to walk? Because you didn't know one day. You never knew how. And I'll show them, this is you learning how to walk. Look how many times you fall down and look at you get back up again. And you know what you had to do? You had to watch your brother walk, or you had to watch how I walked. And then that's how you also learned. You surrounded yourself with people, and your mirror neurons went off to say, okay, I can do that too.
Mm.
And you practiced every single day. And so we are only trying to find excuses as to why we can't, as to why we are too late. And we're holding on to those things to just stay dim,
Mm.
to fit in. And it's time for us all to trust our greatness and to step into the things that we don't know for sure, but to try them anyways, because that is how you're going to expand. And that is how you're going to get so much closer to trusting yourself and listening to that intuition.
The beautiful thing is I'm seeing so many people lean into that right now.
Me too.
So many women, especially, that are taking a moment to maybe pivot or turn into their curiosity or their hobby and put their energy into it because it makes them feel alive.
Hmm.
And I would just encourage anyone that's listening to do the same. And, there are some, maybe there are some commonalities in pivoting, but I think what people are picking up on is that connection to their higher self.
I've had more women in the last 3 months quit their job than I've had in the last 10 years of my clients. It's crazy.
Are you hearing the same story from them?
Well, I mean, I coached them for long enough to
Yeah.
know, like, they've thought about it for so long, but it's not lost on me, like, I have been coaching with them for over, like, 3, 4, 5 years, and they have thought about it, and all of them did it in the last 3 months.
So, energetically, there is something that has been happening in the past 3 months because
It's
I will
crazy.
also share that this podcast for me has been years in the making.
Mhm.
It's lived in my head
Yeah,
this whole
I
time.
believe it.
And, it was really in November where I started to get, okay, putting pen to paper, starting to make a logo, like really starting to get the ball rolling. And then in January, I decided to share in a very public way that I was going to be launching this podcast because I knew if I said it out loud to a room full of people, it would hold me accountable.
Sure. Yeah, I love
And
that.
then we had a meeting, or we
Little
had a visit, a
coffee,
coffee date,
matcha.
and you shared with me something that inspired me to post my first interview, and that was you only need to be 70% ready.
Yep,
And I think I was just waiting for everything to line up to be
yeah,
perfect. And the realization that it was never going to be perfect,
yeah.
that I was always going to be indecisive about this or that, or which font to use, or when to post and this. And I realize now those little minute details are really not that important.
No, they're not.
Do the thing.
Yep.
Do the thing.
Anyone right now that you see that's deeply successful, I guarantee you, if you talk to them, most of them do things when they're 70% ready.
Mm,
I do.
hmm It takes a lot of guts to do that,
Yeah,
courage.
yeah,
It's hard. I mean,
yeah,
it's hard to put yourself out there with your passion project,
yeah.
to put your heart, bare your soul for everyone to see. But you know what? Life is too short not to.
Yeah, and the things that actually are tugging us the most are the things that are gonna fulfill us the most, which is why we hold ourselves back because we're afraid if we, quote, "fail." But a lot of us wait for that perfection because we are raised in a linear judgment system
Mhm,
that society instills in us,
mhm,
right? So we're taught that we have to be perfect.
mhm,
And so when you do things when you're only 70% ready, it goes against everything that we were programmed to believe that we
mm,
need to be in order to be enough in the world.
mm,
So we'll play out things like the font, the colors, the visual, whatever. And right now, I'm sure everyone listening is going through their list of things, but it's really special to do the thing anyways, and then to let in the people that are deeply loving you unconditionally and cheering you on. And I had a client just this morning. Again, it was a big morning. She shared with me, she quit her job
wow.
and she's been, oh my gosh, this woman, she just has such a magnetic light. She is meant to be like hosting retreats and she's brilliant. And she quit her job and she was terrified of what her boss would say. And her boss hasn't always been the kindest in those situations. And she kept saying to herself, like, keep an open heart, keep an open heart, like kind of really anchored in, was so intentional going into that meeting. And he said, it's about time. Like, I'm just so proud of you. Like, people need, like, we've been waiting for this. She couldn't believe the response, right?
Mm,
And it's like, wow, she waited so long and that's what he felt the whole time. And it's
mm,
just so important to recognize, like, you have no idea how good it can get.
I love that. You
Yeah.
have no idea how good it can get.
Yeah. So don't allow yourself to dot your I's and cross your T's and plan out every perfect thing in order to say, then now this is going to be good. Now this is going to be perfect because you're actually probably missing out on millions of opportunities
Mhm.
by doing that. So just I always will say, show me how good it can get. Show me how good it can get. And just continue to trust my intuition to like whatever is tugging and nudging me.
And just like that baby video that you were talking about earlier, remember how many times you fell before you learned to walk.
Yeah.
allow yourself to make the mistakes. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
I made a mistake with audio
Yeah.
and I learned.
Right?
But it's
But
like,
that's it. No, like, we laugh, but, like, that's exactly it.
yeah,
If you knew that in the first month of you recording that you would have made a mistake by audio, you would have been like, "No way." Like, "I gotta make sure I'm gonna have," like, you would have.
but
But
through this
thank God you didn't.
exact and through this process, I've also realized a lot of things about myself. Like, I am that type of tactical learner. I need to do to learn.
Yeah.
Like, I can't learn by thinking or theorizing about it. I need to get my hands dirty. I need to do the thing. I need to problem solve and troubleshoot in the moment.
Yeah.
And having deadlines is a great thing for me. Probably why I went into TV journalism
I
to
love it.
begin with. But we have talked about so many different intuitive topics,
Yeah, we
but
danced around a lot.
we dance around a lot, but I feel like there is a common
Oh god,
thread,
yeah.
right? And that
I
common
loved it.
thread is coming back to yourself.
Yeah.
And it's remembering that all the answers that you're searching for are within you. They're not outside of you.
Yes. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share today? Anything that's maybe on the tip of your tongue?
No, but I think that I feel like you probably feel this way too, is like, you and I are accessible. Like, reach out to us, DM
Mm,
us if you're listening to this and you feel a spark in you. Like, I think we both want to hear from people and have these beautiful conversations. And if you see us, like, I want to talk to people about this stuff all the time.
there's one thing I want to share,
Yeah.
and it's to say that I don't know what I'm doing.
That is not true.
No, what I mean
Oh
by
my God, I
that,
love you. I was not expecting that.
let me flush that out a bit.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is I'm putting one foot in front of the other,
Yes.
following my curiosity, following my intuition. Where it's going to lead me, I don't know.
Well, it's not even
So
any of your business, right? It's like,
it's none of
just
my
show me.
just show
Yeah,
me.
keep
But
going.
when I say I don't know what I'm doing, meaning I don't really know exactly where I'm going,
Yeah.
but I know it feels good.
Oh, that's the
And maybe
best.
that's how I should have said it.
I love it. I know, me neither. I'm like, Matt keeps saying to me, my husband, he's like, when are we gonna move to a ranch and just like host little mini retreats and
Oh,
like call it a day? And I'm
hey, can
like,
we just
I
build
don't
a little
know.
commune? I'll come with you.
I'm like, I don't know, soon, soon. So yeah, just keep going. But that's a beautiful place to be.
You know, I
I
think it's
love it.
just important not to take ourselves too
God,
seriously,
no.
right? Like I don't, no one has it all figured out. We are all learning. We are all works in progress. We are all, taking from different teachers in our life.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would love to hear people's thoughts about this conversation or the things that they wanted to hear more of, because I can definitely see us doing this again, or maybe a couple more times.
Yeah. Let's do it. I'm always happy to come and chat with you.
Fantastic.
It's
Well,
so
Courtney, thank you so much
thank
for
you.
sharing your time with me, sharing your presence, your wisdom, and sharing this space with me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.